Welcome back to the Thoughtful Advocate podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Teo. Today we're going to be diving into so many topics. I like this style because every week I can talk about something new that I've been really into, whether that's a new fan fiction I've been reading or maybe a new hobby I've picked up, updates about Ace, and just in general. This is a great style for me because oftentimes I find it hard for me to find things to talk about in general. I am pregnant again, back to back. I have help, so I think it's going to work. We're going to be talking about my latest fan fiction obsession. I read these at night because I have the night shift with Ace, and he wakes up at 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. Sometimes I just can't fall back to sleep. And of course, we're going to be talking about hopeful environmental news. I always wanted to keep this section and counteract all the bad news that's happening. And of course, my favorite topic, Christmas. I know it's a little early, but we're going to be talking about that and the holidays and my plans that I've been cooking up. Thank you for being here and supporting my journey. I'm really grateful for my Patreon supporters and anyone who's listening. I really appreciate this. Okay, so let's talk about electric lawnmowers. I know it's not as exciting as you think, but I think it's interesting. I'll start off with a little story. Back when I was living with my dad, he literally has a robotic lawnmower. It's basically like the Roomba, but for your lawn, and less advanced because this was middle school. I started high school in 2010, so this was like the 2000s. The robot lawnmower my dad had was basically, in order for it to work, you have to put these little pegs in, and it's basically a boundary for the robot. My dad inserted these green sticks. It was basically a wire, and then you would use these little pegs to make sure they are secure in the ground. My dad outlined the whole lawn. We only did the front lawn because I guess the backyard was too crazy for it. My dad outlined the whole front yard with these little pegs and wires. That way the robot can tell where to stop cutting. The robot was yellow. It was pretty big. It was actually pretty cool driving it. Like a video game. You have this remote controller and then you can go forwards and backwards and have it stop. At that time, it was very cool and very advanced. I don't know anyone who had a robot lawnmower. But my dad has a lot of interesting hobbies, so that was definitely one of them. We used the robot lawnmower for a bit, but then I forgot to take it out for a while. My grandma got fed up and used our regular lawnmower. Let's just say that one cut up the wires for the robot lawnmower. My dad was so pissed because it was expensive. Now that the boundary wires are cut up, the robot's useless. So yeah, it became just junk sitting in a little garage. So I thought it was interesting. That was my first interaction with any electric lawnmower, and it was a robot, so it was definitely more advanced. And I'm sure that even more advanced now, you probably don't even need that little boundary wire, because the Roomba, from what I've seen, all it does is have a charger and it knows where to go back to. It maps it out and just knows the boundaries. So it's probably like that now, or even more advanced. But that was my first interaction. My second interaction with electric lawnmowers is very recent. So my husband got a lawnmower from his dad, and that was very nice because it was free. But then it died, so we had to get a new lawnmower. He bought a lawnmower, and he ended up with an electric lawnmower. I think it's great because it reduces like carbon footprint. You're not relying on fossil fuels. I do want to break down the pros and cons of electric lawnmowers from what I've seen. The pros are zero emissions, which is a huge pro for air quality, and it's much quieter than gas lawnmowers, as you can imagine. The maintenance, there's no oil changes or air filters to change. It's a cost savings. Like, electricity is cheaper than gas in general, and it's instant. You don't have to pull that little ignition string. It just starts right away, which is great. But the cons is less powerful than gas, and I noticed that when my husband was cutting the lawn, he had to stop a couple times because it took a while for it to cut just like a certain patch of grass. It's definitely not as smooth, but it's more convenient, I think. There are limitations with batteries, but because our lawn is so small, it doesn't even matter, so we don't feel it. So yeah, I think the main con is it's much slower. Of course, there's problems with batteries, like mining cobalt, but in terms of ethics, those are really the only two options that I know of, electric or gas. And I think it's great that you don't have to fill it with gas, because I remember going to a gas station with my dad and carrying that red gas collector. It was very annoying. Yeah, I think it's just more convenient, but it's a huge plus for a lot of people. So I think electric lawnmowers are a step in the right direction for the environment. The convenience of using electricity versus gas is pretty big, but it does have trade-offs that I don't think is a huge problem unless you have a huge lawn, and luckily we have small ones, so I think it works for us. Okay, in this section we're going to be talking about baby food prep and its reality. I think when I thought of having kids, food prep wasn't one thing that really popped up a lot. It was more about feeding him, putting him to sleep, and bathing him, like the basics. But yeah, there is a lot of work that goes into food prep. I just want to be honest with you. It's difficult to be environmentally friendly when you're tired in general. So you definitely look for convenience over anything else. I'm pregnant. The baby is due sometime in March. I'm in my second trimester, but I'm definitely tired and taking care of him tiring because he's like crawling and learning how to walk too. So we have this baby gate, and now he knows how to walk around the perimeter by holding the gate. It's like when you go into ice rink and you're like on your ice skates and you're like a newbie holding the wall around the perimeter until you get your balance. It can be exhausting because you're trying to make sure he doesn't fall and bump his head. If you're not in that playpen, like sometimes I play with him on the couch, he'll be crawling back and forth and I'm trying to grab him from not falling off the edge, and it's just tiring. A lot of people feel this, especially people who work full time, because you're working 9 to 5, right? So last thing you want to do is probably wash more dishes. The ease of convenience of single-use packaging is just a lot easier. So I get it. This is really the convenience versus waste dilemma. Fruit pouches, I think, is our biggest issue with waste right now. So we currently buy fruit pouches from Walmart, which honestly they're a lifesaver because it's easy. You can drink straight from the pouch. There's no added sugar, which is great. It's fruits and vegetables mixed in one, and Ace loves them. It's easy when we're outside. It's definitely wasteful because once you're done with it, it's gone. And it's not like that much in it. I think each pouch is like 70 calories. And where I live, like, they don't take pouches in recycling. Like, that's garbage. So it sucks. As I'm gaining more energy, I usually find like towards the end of the second trimester, I usually have more energy and like dies off again in the third trimester. But as I'm gaining more energy, I'm making sure I can prep Ace's food ahead of time. So I'm making porridge, and my grandma taught me to make porridge with any vegetables I have and chicken. I use a whole chicken thigh with skin and bones, put it with water and half a cup of rice, and I chop up vegetables. This week we went to the farmer's market. I chopped up zucchini, carrots, and bell peppers. Just chopped those up, made it small, and boiled it. That's his meal for the week. The first meal I made, I just had carrots, napa cabbage, and chicken. Originally it was ours, but he actually really liked it, so I ended up using it for him, and he ate 2 bowls in one sitting, which is a little crazy. But honestly, there was not much rice left, so it was mostly soup, so I think that's okay. How I'm trying to counteract waste now is when I have energy, I'll make porridge and prep it for the week. I have a little freezing cube tray, so I'll freeze, for example, if I make little purees, and that way I can use it whenever I want, if we're at home. The only problem is when we go out. I think that's when I'll start using the pouches, and I just have to make smoothies and stuff and put it in there. The problem is just finding time and energy to do it, because I'm also cooking for the family, and it can be a lot. Especially when I'm watching him and he's just running everywhere. It's very difficult unless John is home. From time to time, our mother-in-law would come over and watch Ace. This would be if we're going out to the movies, we have an event. We probably try to do it at least once a month. She's been super helpful, and I'm really grateful for that. Recently, my sister-in-law came over to help me clean because my laundry pile is embarrassing. I think it had at least 4 basketfuls of laundry that have not been folded. They're clean, it's just I haven't folded them, so wrinkly, and that gets annoying. But my excuse is that I just can't, because when he's awake, I have to watch him, otherwise he's gonna bump his head or fall. So when he's sleeping, I'm either sleeping too, because at night I can't sleep sometimes. Like even right now, I'm so tired. Or I'm cooking for the week, and that takes a long time. I love home cooked meals, but honestly, it takes me almost the whole day because I'm chopping and prepping. For example, I made japchae, which is Korean sweet potato noodles with spinach, bell peppers, beef, and fried tofu on top of that. It takes a long time. I made it for the whole week, but this time I made even more, so it might last past a week. Chopping takes forever, so I understand I need more efficient time. If I just chop ahead of time, it would be easier because that way I could just cook everything. Planning is not my forte. My sister-in-law did suggest that we come up with a planner. John and I sit down and see what we're eating every day of the week so we know what to cook. I think that's a great idea, but we just haven't got to it. What I'm learning is that being eco-friendly. It doesn't have to be all or nothing as long as you're trying. For example, if I'm making a recipe, I cut down half on the meat. I learned this from my mom. She always used tofu most of the time. We would substitute half the meat portion for tofu, and I love tofu, fried tofu especially. So yeah, I think you can save money because meat is expensive, and tofu is a great alternative. John is a meat eater, so if I'm cooking, I might as well cook for everybody. It just makes more sense. With the fruit pouches, it's not going to be like I'm going to be cutting it all out, but I'm going to try to rely on it less, so that way I'm using what I have versus trying to buy every single time, just cutting down on how much I give them. And there's no shame in asking for help. I think for a long time, I always thought I had to do things alone. That's what we were taught growing up. Asking for help seemed like a weakness. But honestly, it isn't, and it saved my sanity a lot of times. So make sure you ask for help. Okay, so we're gonna jump in the culture corner. I realized I haven't been really reading. I've been on TikTok, and that's not what I want to do with my time. So I'm like, okay, I need to get back into reading because I used to be a very avid reader. I just want to get back to that time where I was reading avidly. Studies show it's good for the brain, and it was fun in an educational way for entertainment. This week's fanfiction that I've been reading is called The Adventures of Alexander Quick, and it's basically a Harry Potter fanfiction. You can find it online. I love fan fictions because it's free and on your phone. At night, I can't take out a regular book and pull out a light. It's just not feasible. So yeah, I just use my phone. I think it's more convenient for me. Alexander Quick has been consuming my time lately, especially at night. I think it's a really well written fan fiction. I've really loved it. But I think what makes it really special is it takes me back to my childhood. I remember watching Harry Potter, especially the first two when they're really young. It's just the magic of it. This feeling that's warm, cozy, and just so innocent because they're like children in this magical land and they're wizards. So it's very cool. They're discovering things for the first time, and it's hard to describe it. It's like when you're a child and you experience the world for the first time. That kind of wonder and awe is something that I miss. I think this book brings it back. Alexandra is a bad term in Harry Potter, but mudblood, but it basically means that she's half Muggle and half pure-blooded, or like her dad's a wizard and her mom's a Muggle. So a Muggle and a Muggle's a human. So yeah, she's like half and half. I think it just brings back the magic into my life. I've always loved a good fantasy book. It's definitely a form of escapism for me too. When I'm extra tired, it just brings me in a world that's just a little bit more magical. The story follows Alexandra. She's a troublemaker. Her nickname's really troublesome, very hard-headed, but very brave, and I admire her for that. I relate to her in such a deep level because her parents also work incredibly long hours. The dad is a cop on really long shifts, and the mom's a nurse, so she's also on really long shifts. She's often feeling very lonely and abandoned, and I felt that growing up as well because my parents were always working too. It was also pretty lonely for me, and being that I couldn't go out and see my friends either, it's definitely a little bit more isolating. So I definitely relate to her in that sense. I find it really beautiful how she makes friends and how important it is to find your people because it's not always your family that's going to be there for you, and that's okay. Maybe sometimes it is, but at some points in your life, what's going to be your best friend, who's going to be there for you. Just her relationship with friends and her way of discovering the world. I think it's very inspiring, and it's just nice to see or read about it. It reminds me of a time when I was younger and I always hung out with my friends at school, feeling that I found my people, and that feeling like that you belong somewhere it's a very powerful feeling. The main character, Alexandra, really annoyed me at first because she's always getting in trouble. Even when she knows she just needs to shut her mouth and that way she can get out of trouble or at least lessen her consequences. Like she always gets sent to the dean's or principal office, and if she just stopped talking back, she would not be in such deep trouble. It's not annoying at certain moments where she just doesn't learn when to stop. But at the same time, I really admire her bravery. She stands up for what's right. Even when she gets into serious trouble, she's trying to uncover why her father practiced the dark arts. And so when she does join a club practicing the dark arts, she still stands up for what's right and eventually leaves because they're doing too many crazy things. I think as someone who followed the rules growing up, I found this inspiring. She had this type of courage that I don't think I really had, or I lost. I think I had it at one point, especially in elementary. I remember I would talk back a lot, but then I lost it because I was scared. And I think more specifically on the friend dynamic, there's Anna, Alexandra's Chinese friend, and she's basically the polar opposite of Alexandra. She's more timid and a goody two shoes, which I can relate to because that's who I turned into, basically. And so, yeah, it was really interesting to see the dynamic between people who are so different become such good friends. And I found that really heartwarming. I'm in a completely different outfit. It's a completely different day. My mic's wire completely broke. John got me a replacement. So, hopefully this audio is better. My wire's been janky for a long time because I've had this mic since I came here. I want to talk about positive news happening right now. With everything going on, it's overwhelming. What better way than to talk about stories where good change is actually happening, especially in climate change and environmental issues. This is a pretty epic victory. There's a ban on offshore drilling. This was by the Biden administration. And this was a huge win because the coastlines of the United States support billions of dollars of economic activity that depends on clean coasts, thriving wildlife, and fisheries. Conservation efforts have led to a record of 564 sea turtles, like specifically their nests, and that's breaking like a 40-year record. So on Anna Maria Island off the Gulf Coast of Florida, sea turtles are booming. There are over 564 sea turtle nests along the coast due to conservation efforts, breaking a 40-year record. This island also saw the return of the least tern species, which was threatened for over 15 years, so great news. And this shows that conservation efforts actually work. So we definitely need more jobs in this area because more and more species are becoming affected by climate change and environmental issues. More good news is clean drinking water. In North America, we take this clean drinking water for granted. You can drink it straight from the tap without an issue in most places. It's found abundantly. You can go to the mall and drink from a water fountain. Restaurants even serve water for free. But when you go to Europe and other places around the world, you have to pay for bottled water. I think they often provide sparkling water in places that don't have clean sanitation for their water. These are usually poor countries without clean sanitation. Getting clean water for them is difficult, and because water is so important. I remember a couple years ago when I was taking a class at AU, they were talking about how water could actually lead to wars. Safe drinking water could actually lead to wars because the more we use it, the less there is. But I always thought, why couldn't we just figure a way to drink ocean water? Clean water is a must because we all need water to survive. The EPA has legally enforced bans on PFAs. They just don't go away. This regulation requires public water systems to reduce contamination by 2029. Hopefully they meet that target because that'd be great. If they do reduce the contamination, that's going to affect like 100 million people. So many families will be protected. So the European Union nature restoration law, 20% of the EU's land will be restored by 2030. This reminds me of spoiler, basically the water is contaminated. So you have like mutant fish and all these contaminated creatures, and they're like mutants, and the water is not clean. If you eat any of the animals because they drink from that water, you'll get really sick and likely die. Basically the water is poisoned because of all these chemical plants put next to them, and it's just dangerous for the public. All the clean water is reserved for the important people who own these plants. They have all the food, clean drinking water, and the people in the village have nothing and are literally starving to death. Pretty sad. Okay, so the National Trust in UK pledged to create over 250,000 hectares of nature-rich landscapes over the next decade. They'll specifically be focusing on restoring peatland, which supports carbon capture and biodiversity. UK is one of Europe's most nature-depleted nations. I think this plan shows that we move towards the right direction if we focus on restoration and conservation of these wild lands. We could bring biodiversity back, and this would be super important for climate change. So the Montana Supreme Court held a historic ruling in the nation's first constitutional climate change trial. So 16 young people basically sued the state and they won, which is amazing. Young people are often the underdog when it comes to law and politics. You'll see that as very inspiring. The court ruled that children have the fundamental constitutional right to a clean and healthful environment. I think this case helps give us hope and also gives us a foundation to build off of for upcoming laws and policies. It's very exciting. More than 3/4 of UK's universities have pledged to divest from fossil fuels, which is great. That represents about $17 billion out of the fossil fuel industry's reach. It definitely sends a powerful message, and more universities should do this. We should have been using renewable energy as soon as it came out. It's important that we use renewable sources because fossil fuels are a finite resource and eventually it's going to run out. So let's just change over now so that we can run on cleaner energy that is renewable. Today's news is on the UK. They're making significant progress, so that's great. The UK's last plant closes. I think that's huge. Yay! And if you remember, UK was the birthplace of coal-powered plants during the Industrial Revolution, so this is huge. I know we're facing enormous challenges when it comes to climate change and renewable energy. There's still so much work to do, but these stories remind us that change is happening. I hope this podcast will help inform you and let you know that there's people out there making that change, and you could be one of them too. So don't give up. When I hear about these stories, it gives me hope because I have children too. I hope that it's renewable energy across the board and clean air and clean drinking water because everyone deserves that. I think often when we start focusing on becoming more environmentally friendly, we focus on individual actions, which are great, but they're not the end all be all. It's a start, and it will help you learn how important our resources are and to use it as many times as possible. So yeah, I might be nitpicky on myself because I'm using so many fruit pouches for my son, but honestly, when I'm tired, I just need to. And instead of focusing on the little losses that are happening in my personal life, I can think about the big picture, channel that energy into informing people and educating people about what's going on in the world so that we can inspire each other and take action. Speaking of the future and making memories, I am super excited for Halloween and Christmas. Christmas is my all-time favorite holiday. I know it's crazy to be thinking about Christmas already, but I've been thinking about Christmas forever, since the summer mostly. I just love that warm, cheery feeling and the holiday vibes. It's truly beautiful. I'm even more excited because I get to spend it with Ace this year. And this is his first Christmas, so we want to make it special. And I know that having children around Christmas makes it even better. We went to the Toronto Christmas market a couple of years ago, but it was almost -20 that day. I had to take public transportation down there, and it's just freezing. All that matters is Christmas markets are usually outdoors, so we were freezing. And that's all I remember. It was nice aesthetically, like they had that big Christmas tree, which was beautiful, and they had some fire pits around the area. It's in the distillery district. They have little shops, which I love to go to, but it was just too cold. So I think that kind of ruined the experience for me, and I want to experience like a better Christmas market, at least in better weather. So I've been looking around, and there's Christmas markets everywhere. Mississauga, Burlington, Laura, Norfolk, and so many. So if you're not in Toronto, you can still go to a Christmas market. I'm super excited to take Ace because he just loves seeing new things. Even when we take him to stores, he's just experiencing the world. So to see that kind of joy and excitement from him is really fun. I'm very excited to take him to the Christmas market because I think it'll be a good time with the family and it'll be experience to remember. Even though he won't remember, he'll remember the good vibe. And of course, we're going to do pictures of Santa. I think that's super cute. Christmas is my #1 favorite holiday, but I also love Halloween. I really do love Halloween. I went trick-or-treating for 18 years. I know a lot of people think you're supposed to stop trick-or-treating once you're 16. I don't know what the cutoff age is, but I've always loved Halloween and I cannot resist free chips, so why not? And if I'm going to dress up and go all out, I might as well enjoy. I didn't have any issues, I guess because I look really young. One of the rare occasions where my friends came over and we went around the block and got candy. We watched movies beforehand. It was such a good time and such a good memory. I'm excited to take my son around the block and just like have him experience the wonders of Halloween too. This year we're going as One Piece characters, so stay tuned for that post. I'm really looking forward to it. We've already started seeing Halloween decorations in our neighborhood. There's this one house that puts up giant skeletons and it's so sick. They really go all out and they definitely went all out this year. It's just so exciting to see people get excited about Halloween. We haven't put our decorations up yet, but hopefully soon. It's just the vibe. I watched Hocus Pocus last night. So many fun Halloween movies. It's just fun. Like it's dark, cold. We feel a little mysterious and magical, and yeah, it's very cool. We will live around the park. go all out. There's literally a garage you can walk through and they decorate the inside. It's crazy. I had a lot of fun in the States. Most of the houses were handing out candy. That's what makes it fun. The more people involved, the better. But when I moved here, I noticed that there weren't as many. So it makes me sad. I heard that trading is taking over, which I get it. Like, it's safe and in one area. It just takes the magic away from neighborhoods and community building. I love that community feeling, especially getting your neighbors and seeing them in costume. Taking kids out around the block is, I think, such a great tradition and needs to be upheld. So hopefully more people take part in Halloween this year. If you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can download this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and every other podcast platform, or just watch the YouTube video. I really appreciate your support and any comments that you leave. So thank you. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so today's sponsor is Kind Laundry. Kind Laundry use natural ingredients and it actually comes in these sheets. So much more useful than liquid laundry detergent because that stuff gets messy. With Kind Laundry, you can bring this anywhere. It's literally in a box, pack in your suitcase, and it's that easy. You can get 10% off by using code ZeroWasteCute.